Ajax-Pickering is certainly a riding to watch in this campaign, and that's because of the battle that's shaping up between two of the candidates, Liberal incumbent Mark Holland and Conservative star candidate Chris Alexander. Mark Holland is public enemy #1 for the Tories. That's because he gets under their skin in the House of Commons. They say that he is soft on crime. Chris Alexander, meanwhile, is a former Canadian ambassador to Afghanistan. They're both in our Toronto studios, and the debate begins now. Mr. Holland, there's a Facebook page, Operation Turf Mark Holland. Why did the Tories, what is it about your riding that the Tories want so much? Why do they want to knock you off?
Well, that website is put together with a website called CanadianGunNuts.ca. And so you can imagine that the gun groups that I was fighting who were trying to kill the long gun registry, a registry that's supported by more than 430 of the 433 police chiefs, that's supported by Canadian police associations across the country, supported by doctors and nurses, the Canadian Association of Paramedics, Canadian Association of Emergency Physicians. So there's a group of folks out there that have given more than $10,000 to the Conservative candidate in my riding because they want to abolish our gun laws. I think we need to keep those strong, and I think the Conservatives want to get rid of me because they try to get rid of anybody who stands up to them. They've gone through and got rid of the RCMP Public Complaints Commissioner, the Veterans Ombudsman, the Victims Ombudsman, Munir Sheikh, you know, go through the list one by one. Anybody who criticizes them, anybody who has a different opinion, they try to attack. So I'm in pretty good company when it comes to people who stand up against this government.
Chris Alexander, what is it then about Mark Holland, and what is it about your riding that you guys are, that you're getting so many resources in there to help you win and beat him?
Well, the main message in Ajax-Pickering is that people want an economic recovery to continue. They want more jobs. We've gotten back all the jobs we lost in the downturn, but it's not enough. Some people are still on, in part-time work. Some people are still not in the jobs they feel they're qualified for, and they want a rational economic plan to bring the whole country, but in the case of our riding, Ajax-Pickering, back to normal. And that we won't do that by raising taxes. We will only do that by supporting businesses. And the government's economic plan is actually at the top of everyone's priority list.
So it's not about crime. It's not about crime in Ajax-Pickering?
Well, that is an important issue, probably a secondary issue. And, we didn't ask for the support of law-abiding gun owners, but they've come to us because they feel that an arbitrary measure has been brought down on them. No one is talking about abolishing gun controls in Canada and cracking down and doing anything other than cracking down on handgun-related crime, which is a problem in the Greater Toronto area and elsewhere. Okay. But this gun registry has not done that, and it is punishing thousands, tens of thousands of law-abiding gun owners, especially in rural areas, unjustly. It's a wasteful measure, and most of the people that I talk to in Ajax-Pickering and elsewhere want to see it going. But the real question here is, where does my opponent stand with regard to the crime agenda? He opposed it in successive parliaments. Recently, last week, he said that he would not stand in the way of these bills. So which is it? Okay, moreover, Michael Ignatieff, his leader, said that he would continue to oppose these measures. So people are unclear.
Mark Holland, what about that contradiction between your leader and what you had to say that Chris Alexander raises?
There's absolutely no contradiction. Look, we've been extremely clear. We have about 24 bills before Justice and Public Safety that seek to essentially recreate the disaster of California. And what I have been saying and what the leader has been saying is that if we just swallow those bills, we are going to make the same mistakes that Newt Gingrich, the father of this mega prison movement, says is a disaster and won't work. Look, this is my hometown. I've lived here my whole life. And I can tell you I've talked to people across this riding, not just for a couple of weeks as a nominated candidate, but since I was born there and since I've been working there and volunteering there my whole life. And whether or not it's on the gun registry, they stand with police. They stand with victims of crime. I encourage Chris to sit and talk to the victims of École Polytechnique, the victims of Dawson College, people I've been working with for years, standing up and fighting for that registry. I encourage him to talk to the folks who need child care in our riding, folks who can't afford to send their children to school, folks who have sick loved ones at home that they need care for. And the reality is this government is saying, we've got nothing for you. You've got to wait around 5 years, and maybe if we balance the budget, we'll give you something. And I'll tell you what, Jane, there is absolutely no way they're going to sit by and watch $30 billion be dumped into fifth-generation first-strike stealth aircraft when even the Pentagon is saying they don't know if they can meet
let's
that
get Chris
need.
Alexander
The needs
in
in
there.
our riding
Okay.
are simply too important for those wrong priorities.
Mark Holland, let's get Chris Alexander in there. What do you say to that? And I also want to ask you, Mr. Alexander, about the Liberals attacking you on some comments you made saying you're out of touch because you have said that poverty is being eliminated in Canada.
What I said, Jane, was that we don't have third world type poverty in Canada. And the woman that the Liberals quoted in a doctored video went on to say that when she went to Mark Holland's office, she was laughed at. We put that out, and it put an end to the story pretty quickly. But on the question of prisons, you know, Canadians are in favor of safe streets and safe communities. That is a Canadian value. The proposals that have been put forward by this government would not create a single new federal institution. They would create new places. And comparisons here with California are absolutely out of line. Moreover, when it comes to our Canadian forces, no one wants to go back to the decade of darkness when they didn't have the equipment they needed. I saw it with my own eyes when we arrived without the right vehicles in Afghanistan, without helicopters. The Liberal Party, my opponent included, would like to basically ground the Canadian Air Force. Not only not invest in a next generation of equipment for them, but end the service contract for our existing CF-18s, which are on very dangerous missions over Libya right now.
Mark Holland, get in there, yeah, because a good point, Mr. Alexander.
Yeah, Jane. Well, first of all, on the poverty comment. You know what? Every single day in our office, we deal with people who are struggling to make ends meet.
Did you laugh at that woman, though? Did you laugh at that woman, as Mr. Alexander
fact,
said?
afterwards, in fact, afterwards, she admitted that we had never met, and so the reason it was edited is it would have been slander to put on. So you know, you have to be careful about what you repeat. She herself admitted to me afterwards that we had never even met. So I mean, look, let's be honest here. There are 3.5 million Canadians who are living in poverty. In our riding, I talk to people every day who've lost their job and don't know whether or not they're going to be able to make ends meet. Pat Stogren, who talked about veterans in this country not being able to afford groceries, not being able to afford rent. You know, these people are fighting to make ends meet, and we feel that if you're a veteran or if you're a senior and that you're in that kind of situation, we've got to step up and be there for you. It's simply unacceptable to say that. Secondly, with respect to the military, you know, when I went out on the Winnipeg and spent a week with our men and women who are there doing an incredible job, I heard about the need to replace our destroyers. I heard about the need to assert our sovereignty in the North. I did not hear, you know, this desire to spend $30 billion on an untendered contract. What we've said is, my goodness, we should at the very minimum have a publicly tendered process where there's a debate in this country and where we actually look at need. We're talking about spending $1,000 for every man, woman, and child on this. This is more money than we spend on health care in a year when people are real people are suffering.
With
and this
respect,
is unacceptable.
Mark Holland,
Yeah,
Mr. Alexander, you get in there for the last minute. Go.
Thank you. If we don't exercise our sovereignty over the Arctic, if we don't fulfill our NATO obligations, others will do it. And I don't think Canadians want to outsource their foreign policy or their defense policy to Washington or elsewhere. And that's essentially what the Liberal policy would have us do. On the question of attachment to the riding that we're both trying to represent, Mark and I moved into it around the same time. I'm talking to Canadians about their economic future every day, and we need.
Jane, I've got to get in there. That is
all understand. We will not create jobs. We will not create jobs by raising taxes.
Be dishonest,
Okay.
Chris. But Chris, Jane, last word, you can't be dishonest about this. I've lived in the riding my whole life. I have volunteered in more than 20 organizations in this riding. I was a counselor in this riding.
I've
been an MP for
You lived outside of it, Mark.
Let's be honest here, Chris. You moved in
Pickering.
after the nomination, so let's be honest.
We're going to have to shut down the debate right now. I appreciate it, and good luck on the campaign trail. Mark Holland for the Liberals, Chris Alexander for the Conservatives. Thanks for joining us today.